yeah, Last of Us.
That was a game. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a hell of a game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's tough because as after I played it, I was like, geez, if I was reviewing this, what would I give it? Man, it'd be awfully close. It might not be 100, but it'd be awfully close.
Yeah, it was a struggle writing that, but I think the way everything added up to, and the overall quality of the product was undeniable, even if um I thought the story was well done. Some people obviously didn't, but even discounting that, I think if you hated the story, it's still a 9 plus.
Yeah.
So do you think people didn't, I mean, is it an issue over people not liking the story, or is it an issue of people not liking the ending?
Trev, I got a feeling we're gonna find out because I think that's where Rhett's at.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a
Um,
dissenting opinion.
yeah. I would say, like, first thing, I absolutely respect anyone that thought this game should have gotten a perfect score. If it wasn't a sequel to The Last of Us, I probably would have given it a perfect score too. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't give it a very high score either. Trevor, I'm with you. I'm not sure if I would give it 100, but like it would be a 9+ for me for sure. Um, just because I disagree with maybe half of the game. It doesn't. That doesn't mean that I'm blind to the quality of what we're playing. It's very rare that the gameplay loop is as satisfying as it is in Last of Us 2.
So Paul, how do you want to do? Are we going to work our way towards our grievances with the ending, and work through the chapters, or are we going to like get to it right away?
I think we should work through chronologically and just kind of go through some gameplay stuff as it comes up.
Okay.
And obviously, in case this part makes it into the cast, spoiler warning: this is gonna spoil the shit out of The Last of Us Part 2. If you haven't played it, or you care about playing it, or you don't want to know what happens in the game, don't listen to this. Just don't.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. Go play the game instead, and then come back and listen to this. So there you go.
I feel like that, like at this point we're safe. Like Last of Us 2's old enough now where, we really shouldn't have to tag anything as a spoiler alert, although we do to be cautious. But I feel like by now, like we should be able to freely talk about it, and not have like, Twitter attack us.
Absolutely.
I mean, people get pissed off if you spoil a Super Nintendo game from 1991.
That's a good point. People were catching flack for spoiling Final Fantasy VII parts of that game. So
I didn't know what happened at the end of Super Mario World,
yeah,
Gotta love the internet.
You gotta something the internet. That's
Right.
yeah, yeah.
So the prologue of Last of Us Part 2 in Jackson, Wyoming. How'd you guys feel about the opening of this game?
I thought I do recall it being just absolutely stunning. I know when I fired it up, and you see, if I recall correctly, it's Joel and Tommy on the horses, and just the sort of that landscape and the scenery was just. I just remember just being my jaw was just dropped to the floor. I thought it looked incredible. And yeah, and it set the. I like that early recap of the original. Like I didn't feel like in the first 5-10 minutes, I didn't feel like I didn't know what was going on. There was sort of a nice quick recap as Joel's playing on the guitar there of what happened in the original, which was, God, I can't believe it's been 7 years. 2013, the original came. So, which I didn't do. I didn't replay the original going into The Last of Us 2. So I was going in without having played the original in 7 years. So, yeah, I thought the game did a nice job bringing me up to speed. I just graphically was incredible.
Yeah, I love that right off the bat. The first thing that we're introduced to with this game is Troy Baker and his stunning performance in this game. He's not given as much dialogue, obviously, as he was given in the first game, but the scenes that he is given, man, he knocks out of the park every time. And this is the first of them, expertly done. The guy that plays Tommy too, I what's his name?
I'd have to look it up.
But man, he does an
I don't
amazing
know.
job too. I'm sorry, but he does an
Whoever
amazing
you
job
are,
too,
you did a
right?
wonderful job.
But yeah, just
I know you're
expertly done.
listening.
And I also think that you obviously, so you get the first scene with Tommy and Joel, and then you take off and you're riding on horseback. I think that the entire opening of the game, maybe the first 2 hours of the game, you should have been playing as Tommy and Joel.
Why do you say so?
Well, I mean, when we come up to the next couple story beats, I guess I'll go into it a bit further. But just the way that this opening act breaks down, I think that later events may have been more effective. Been more effective if you were playing as Tommy and Joel for the first couple hours of the game.
You know, like the parts where you're out on patrol and out on the Overlook and
Out on patrol. It's not that I don't like those parts. I just think that with the inevitable demise of Joel, I think it would have been a lot more effective if you played as him right up until the point of his death.
yeah, especially if the leaks didn't happen.
If the leaks didn't happen,
And,
right? Because I
you-
mean,
you came into this game and you start as Joel, and you're expecting to play the game as
Yeah.
Joel.
yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Effective.
Well, yeah, he was our hero from the first one, right? So, which I think we're going to get to it near the end, and I think that's what a lot of the issues with the game is how Joel was treated throughout the game and even at the very end. So, yeah, I am surprised we didn't. The focus was on Ellie and then eventually Abby, as those were the two primary players we played with the entire time.
Mm.
Yeah. I thought it was a bit of a hiccup in pacing with breaking up this first act the way they did.
Yeah, I admit that I was a little shocked to be playing as somebody, even after starting as Ellie, to be playing as Abby so quickly into the game. I was surprised by that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I was upset by it though, or I thought that it was a misstep. Though I think they could have done a better job with Abby right at the beginning to make her a more relatable character from the start. Like
Right.
in that first act, I think they do a good job of that in the back half of the game. But in that first little bit, I didn't really identify with her as somebody that I wanted to like.
You don't identify with her at all, and you're literally dropped into the shoes of this random character that, and again, I'm with you, Paul. There wasn't a single time in that opening part where you're playing as Abby where I'm like, oh, I don't want to be playing as this random person. What is this? Like, I was intrigued. But
Yeah.
you find out that you're dropped into the shoes of this random character, and then you bring her to the spot of Joel's demise, right? You bring her to you bring what is essentially this like inconsequential character into this massive moment for this series. And I don't know, I think that, like you were saying, like they didn't do anything to build any sort of sympathy with her at this point. And so to me at least, the character was kind of already dead to me after the events take place, after everything plays out. Essentially, you had this random kill one of the most popular characters maybe ever in gaming, and I don't know, I felt like from that point on, Neil Druckmann was going to be fighting an uphill battle that he was never going to win. That was his problem with the pacing in the opening chapters, is that man, he stacked the deck too high against himself.
Yeah, I mean, they don't even tell us who Abby is in the early going, but I think it's all intentional. Like I truly believe those first 3 days in Seattle, where you're focusing on playing with Ellie, is that it's all about demonizing Abby. That Abby's this like jacked up fucking. Well, I wouldn't call her a freak, but she's just this looks like a bodybuilder, for Christ's sake. So
Yeah.
like she just this over the top angry character that you just despise in the first half of the game. And I think as we get into Seattle day one with Abby, it sort of starts to shift. You start to sympathize with her. And I think it's all intentional. I think that's exactly what Neil wanted to do when he sort of took us on this journey. He wanted us to hate Abby and then start to sympathize with her the more we progressed through the game and the more we played as her. But you're right, like the early going, we don't know who this is. We really don't care to play her at all in the early going, but you know, they almost force feed Abby upon us in that intro. Or first chapter, I should say.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're right that it's absolutely an uphill battle to fight with the story, but I think that's, like you said, a super intentional choice and a challenge they wanted to take on, that they want to, through the narrative of the game, deliver that as the theme, that you have to be able to let go. And I actually really liked the way that they dealt with Joel's death, because as you see later through some of the flashbacks and things, Joel, who used to be this complete hard-ass, badass smuggler, has become soft. He has become comfortable in Jackson, and you can see that he himself is uncomfortable with that comfort. And you can see on his face just before, well, Abby takes the final swing on his face, he knows that he failed because he let his guard down. He failed Ellie because he let his guard down. And I think that's a really powerful character moment, even if it's not the heroic ending that you would want for him. I think it makes sense. Real. It's real, and it hurt. It hurt really bad.
Yeah. And he knew it was coming. Like when he says, what does he say to her? He's like, he says something to the effect of like, I knew you had a speech ready. Like, so just, you know, spare me the speech and get it over with. He said something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I remember that moment thinking, oh, fuck, he's really toast here. Like, goodbye, Joel. And so I hadn't seen any of the leaks, so it was all new to me. And I don't know how I managed to dodge all those leaker missiles and bullets, but I did. So I didn't know it was coming, and it was quite, for me, it was quite a moment, and it caught me off guard, because I honestly thought Joel would be part of this journey for at least the better part of the sequel, and not make such an early exit.
Yeah, that specific scene as well was directed very well, in that the roller coaster of emotion was expertly crafted. You see Tommy and Joel arrive to the little room that the group is in, and everything seems to be okay, and then you slowly realize that the group isn't what you thought that they were going to be. And then Joel takes the shot, and you think, okay, well, did she just kill him? No. You see that she shot him in the leg, and you're like, okay, so Joel's going to live. Joel's going to survive this, leg shot. What character dies from a leg shot? Then you see that his leg is, like, gone. It's fucked. And
it was brutal.
Dude, it's gruesome. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah, they're going to fucking kill him here. He's certainly not going to be a part of the game after this, So they're going to fucking kill him here. And just the roller coaster of emotions they take you on in that scene is crazy. Expertly crafted. Trevor, you were saying that it had sort of like an HBO vibe to it. I was thinking the exact same thing as I was playing it. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm watching...
well, it totally...
Right? It felt like an episode of Game of Thrones or something.
It really did. Like, there's the over-the-top gore, and I mean, we even got a little bit of... Did we even get nudity? Well, we definitely had some sex scenes, because I mean, when Abby's getting bent, when she's getting bent over, I was like, oh boy, what do we got here? Like, I'm looking around the room.
Holy shit.
Where are the kids? Like, better not be any kids in the room. Like, where's the wife? Like, I felt like I was looking at porn, for Christ's sake, that I had to hide it. Like, it was, I hadn't seen that. I hadn't really experienced that in a game in that way. I mean, even the scene with Dina and Ellie, when they're in their underwear, I was like, oh wow, this is spicy. Mm-hmm. So for me, it had an HBO vibe. It had it all. Yeah. It had like a bit of nudity, a bit of gore, and a really good story.
Just to touch again on the Joel scene, I think part of what made it so powerful for me was the performances of all three of them. Troy Baker, Ashley Johnson, and Laura Bailey were just fucking incredible in that scene, the way they played off of each other, and obviously the motion capture tech, the way it was able to capture those subtle looks on all of their faces as everything went down was just unreal.
I can't remember the last time I had a pit in my stomach like I did when Ellie does the line, "Joel, fucking get up." She's like, "Fucking just get up," and he might as well already be dead.
Yeah.
And man, that one line, like you said, man, the performances are so incredible. That one line really struck a chord with me.
Amen to that. Yeah, it's probably some of the best acting we've seen in a video game, really. At least this year. I mean, I can't think of anything that comes close to it. At least this year.
Definitely not. I think maybe some of the performances from Red Dead 2 get a little bit close, but
sure.
This year that category of best performance is going to be stacked with The Last of Us.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I know Cyberpunk is coming, but I can't imagine Keanu Reeves does anything better than this cast.
No.
I love you, Keanu.
I watched that Netflix movie with Keanu Reeves, Replicas, the other day, and he is not a good actor. He honestly
he
is
never
just
was.
the worst.
He never was, but I don't know. He's lovable.
Him,
he's just right. He's charming.
He's a tremendous human.
Tremendous.
But anyways, Joel's dead. Tommy's on the mend.
But he's on the mend. Before we move on from that, I just want to say as well that we're going to get to a part of this where I start to go off on the story, and I want to make it clear that I think Joel dying is a very good thing. I think that there was no other narrative choice that you could have really made in this game. I think that maybe the circumstances surrounding it may have, well, they definitely could have been done better, but I think that Joel should have died. And I mean, I felt more motivated as Ellie going into this Seattle day one. I felt more motivated as her than I ever did as Joel in the first game. And that was really powerful. That was really powerful to instill in the player.
Oh yeah, like you definitely get that sense of, that day one with Ellie. You're like, okay, all right, we're gonna find these motherfuckers. Like, it's on, game on. Here we go. Like you immediately understood what Ellie had gone through because you think back to 2013. I mean, this was, basically her father figure, right? So. They set up Seattle day one quite nicely.
Yeah, very.
And Seattle day one is the point where I think the visual presentation just goes through the roof. Jackson was impressive, but seeing Seattle and just the density of the foliage and the way they've rendered the forests and the roads and the way the horse looks and the way the characters look in the game, it's unbelievable. I think I said this in the review, but if you told me this was a PS5 game, I'd probably believe you.
Easily.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like the apocalypse never looked so luscious, so full of life, so gorgeous.
So delicious.
Yeah, right? Like, I just wanted to go out there and like crawl through the grass and move up and down, go through each shop and maneuver my way through Seattle. Like, the environment is just expertly crafted, and it's a big reason why the game is as enticing, as motivating as, it's a big reason why I wanted to keep seeing what was ahead of me, because these environments are just next to none.
And those more open sections of Seattle really make it enticing to want to look around and see how big these areas are. And one of the things I was most impressive with when trying to navigate the game was even the sections that were linear didn't feel linear. They feel like you have so much leeway with which direction you go, and obviously you're always a few steps away from some invisible wall that's guiding you in a direction, but you feel like you have total agency over where you're going, which is an incredible level design.
Yeah, I remember, I think out of all the chapters, I took the longest to complete Seattle day one, because you're just soaking it all in, and it didn't feel linear at all, especially in the early going as you're trying to figure things out. Okay, where do I got to go here, and where's my map, and as you're navigating around the city, and of course you want to search every little nook and cranny because the game really does reward you for searching for every little thing. So I found myself just, I grinded through that level really slowly, just collecting everything. And I don't know if I finished things the way they were supposed to finish things in that opening chapter, but yeah, I remember being blown away and trying to figure out, oh, is that really a road in Seattle? And oh wait, there's the Ferris wheel. And like so seeing some of the landmarks that are actually in Seattle was really cool. Definitely had that I Am Legend vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. So where do we get with Seattle Day 1? We do end up with the after Ellie and Dina make it through the tunnels, and well, actually, let's talk about the tunnels, because that was crazy. That's quite a sequence.
That was crazy. Yeah, I remember just thinking, like, I remember having to put the controller down after that whole sequence and thinking, holy crap, that was absolutely nuts. Like, you're just running for your life. You're quickly becoming an expert with the controls and some of the frustrating weapon. I don't know if you want to call it a weapon wheel, but I remember really wrestling with weapons and the aiming mechanics. It just didn't feel as smooth as a Call of Duty game when you're really used to Call of Duty games. So there was an adjustment for me for the controls, and that all led to the intensity as you're trying to figure things out and you're trying to escape the tunnels with all these crazy zombies chasing you. Yeah, I thought it was intense and it was fantastic. What a great sequence.
It really guides you towards becoming proficient with those systems, especially right at the end when you're going through the final escape with Dina, and you really have to put all those skills together in one sequence, in one long string to get away. Right. Perfectly placed headshots and dodging and using some of the mobility mechanics in a way that you've been taught to do over the course of the game thus far. I thought that's a nice way to tutorialize up to that point and then make you put it all together, but in a way that feels empowering.
Totally.
Yeah.
So anyways, we hit the theater, and then we get to probably my favorite section of the game, the flashback to Ellie's birthday.
That's my line. It's my favorite.
Rhett, was that your favorite sequence in the game?
I think it's the best part of the game. Again, you get Troy Baker continuing his fucking tour de force of acting, taking Ellie through this, and it's so nice to go back to. Is Ellie like 14 in these scenes? 15 or a little older?
It's 4 years earlier, right?
So 15.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
This would be like her 15th birthday. It's so nice to go back and it kind of feels like you're playing the first game during these moments. And it's just like this really like nice, peaceful, kind of nostalgic, warm, feeling that you get from playing as these characters, as if they're in the original game. And then you go through this sequence where I should back up first. I love how like you go through the museum and you're finding like hats and stuff and you can put them on Joel, and it's just like a lot of fun, You can tell that they still love each other and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just like really beautifully done. And then you get this sequence where they go inside this spaceship that they find. And man, it's the way that they shoot this, it like almost brought a tear to my eye. Ellie is like Joel gives her a tape of this space launch, this recording of the space launch, and she puts her headphones in and she like kicks back and she closes her eyes, and it's as if she's actually being launched into space. The shuttle, you get this kind of like pseudo dream reality sequence where she's the rocket ship starts to shake, and you see the light shining in through the windows, and all the sounds and the effects of a space launch start to kind of like permeate throughout the room. And man, it's just like so beautifully done. Yeah, Paul, I know you'll have more to say about this, but man, it was just so beautiful.
The whole thing was just so gorgeous. And I think the main point of that whole thing is to juxtapose how Ellie was with how Ellie is. Yeah. And even before Joel dies, we get some glimpses of this later, that she was already broken. She was already kind of lost. Like, she
Mm-hmm.
had drifted away from Joel in a way that you wouldn't have expected at the end of the first game. And that's without even knowing what he did originally. And once she knows that, obviously she drifts even farther away. And seeing how things used to be just makes it hit home that much harder when you come back to reality, you come back to Seattle Day 2, that Ellie's on a path to self-destruction. And she is sailing down the rabbit hole, and you're going with her. You don't have a choice because she's already made up her mind what she's going to do. And that's, I don't know if it was a scary feeling, but it was tense. It made me feel stressed about playing the rest of the game.
Yeah, it was almost the perfect setup. The way they sort of shared those really touching moments that they had 4 years earlier, and it was, I think, you know, they wanted to show us this because, yeah, it made his death all the more impactful, all the more traumatic, because they had shared such, you know, so much time together. So, yeah, that really was well done by Naughty Dog. The way they, one of the better flashback sequences I've seen in a game. Like, it was really impactful.
Yeah. What you were mentioning there, Paul, about day 2 and how Ellie, you know, she emerges and she's really on this warpath. She's, you know, and she's kind of losing herself here. I think that the birthday gift flashback also did a really good job in giving the player that emotion as well. You know, they did a really good job. Maybe you might feel more linked to Ellie at the start of Seattle Day 2 than you do at any other part of the game. After that, man, I felt motivated to get out there and kill Abby. You know?
It really interesting because
it was like Ellie's pain was my pain. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I think, like, I definitely felt Ellie's pain after that, but especially after the birthday gift flashback, I was feeling that she needed to take a step back and think about what she was doing.
See that's the fundamental difference between, I think, both of your opinions and my opinion on this, is that you think that she needed to take a step back here, and I think she needed to take 3 steps forward. To put her head down and fucking barrel through these fucking people. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, I mean, she was out for vengeance. It was, I mean, she was out for vengeance, and in some ways, it's almost hard to explain because, you know, their relationship at that point was somewhat fractured. I don't know if that's the right word. Maybe it was tense. It was tense between the two because of what Joel had done, obviously. So, to sort of understand that she has that kind of rage where she's taking out hundreds upon hundreds of people is somewhat confusing a little bit. I mean, you definitely understand what Abby went through. I mean, her own father. But yeah, I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but
I will say, with taking out hundreds of people and everything like that, kind of getting off track here, but because of the way they did the game with there being, I don't know, 1 or 2 stealth kill animations and the way that these like NPCs would die, you felt like you were killing the same character over and over. At least I did. And they did a really good job of like NPC dialogue between each other, you know? You know, hey Josh, check over here. Oh, okay, Emily. Oh shit, Emily's down. Get over there. Like, that stuff is all really, really good. But as far as like taking them out, I did not feel the weight of murder the way that I think a lot of people were anticipating you would. I remember my buddy telling me like, "Oh man, I don't know if I'm going to play the game because it just seems like every kill is going to be such a hard thing to do." But I did not find that to be the case at all.
Yeah, I mean, there were some moments. I think when you kill, and again, I'm fuzzy on these characters. When you kill the pregnant girl and Owen, you're playing as Abby. I mean, you really, or no, that was with Ellie. Jesus, I'm getting things confused.
Yeah,
but,
that's at the end of Seattle Day 3.
Yeah, so I mean those deaths, some of the deaths in the cutscene really feel like, oh shit, like this is really impactful. But by and large, the gameplay, yeah, you're right. Like it just becomes automatic. You're killing,
Yeah,
you're killing all the enemies in one area and moving on to the next, and it didn't carry a lot of weight.
yeah.
I feel like that's part of the point too, is that there are so many enemies, and Ellie is such a vicious, brutal killer at this point. Those kill animations start to feel less impactful as you go on. Like the first few times you see her really jam a switchblade into somebody's liver, it's vicious.
Yeah.
And as you go along, it gets less and less vicious. It gets easier because it's getting easier for Ellie to kill. I think that was what I took away from it, is that this is the intent. You're supposed to feel less.
That's a really good point. Yeah, that does make sense.
It is true, because you do find as you're playing with her throughout the game, the more you're progressing, the more she's just sort of losing herself. She's losing that humanity. So yeah, I think you're right, Paul. I think a lot of that is intentional. That she's just going through the motions for a big part of the game. It's all becoming automatic. So yeah, I think that's very intentional, and I think that's all part of the journey for her.
Yeah.
She's lost everything. So, these killing just doesn't have any impact on her.
And I think, like, throughout the Ellie days, we build towards understanding why it is she feels so compelled to go on this mission and to make sure that Abby dies. And we get our second glimpse into why she's feeling that way with the flashback in Ellie Day 2, where they're looking for the guitar strings and they find the corpses, and eventually she gets the truth out of Joel. And obviously later on we find out that their final interaction before he dies is not what you would want with a loved one. So I think that's part of where, I'm not sure where I was going with this, but anyways.
Well, I think the flashbacks are cool and they're well done and everything, but did we really need a reason for... Because at this point, we didn't really know that Ellie and Joel, like, fucking hated each other. We didn't get that scene where Joel had actually told Ellie about what happened on the operating table. So, did we really need to waste as much time as we did, building up a reason as to why we were this vicious and why we took Joel's death this hard? I mean, after that first game, that was all I needed. Just thinking back to the first game and them traveling halfway across the country together was plenty.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think maybe the goal of the flashbacks was more to flesh out that relationship a little bit and show that not only was it that journey across the states to, find the Fireflies that made them close, but here's all this other shit that happened. And things were up and down, and it wasn't always good.
Right.
And that, just further develops that relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like I see this shit happening, and I'm like, God damn, I wish we fucking got this game. I wish we got Jackson and the events that unfolded at Jackson. I mean, I'm sure that there was a lot of shit that happened in those 4 years,
Yeah. I don't know if I would have wanted that game, though. I feel like most of the time I was playing through part 2, I wasn't sure that it was necessary, because that first game to me is basically perfect. It didn't need anything else. So I think trying to do some of the same things again and make another Last of Us game but not do something like this would have been a huge mistake. And would have lost a lot of the character that made the series the series. But with this, they took a huge risk, and obviously a very polarizing risk.
Right? A huge risk that seemingly turned out to be a big mistake, because, I mean, the fan base is divided beyond anything reasonable.
Well, I mean, that's a risk that you're going to take anytime you're trying to do something that is out on a limb or something that's not what was expected. I'm sure a lot of the same people who are grousing about what this game is would have been equally upset if it was the same or too much the same.
Are we sure that the community is divided though? You know what I mean? Like, is it just a small percentage of loudmouths online?
I think the vast majority of people, from everything I've seen, the vast majority of people don't like this game worldwide. I mean, look at Japanese Amazon. They can't give this game away fast enough. I was reading a story about, I think it was in Taiwan, that there was a deal going. It was like a week after release. Buy 3, get Last of Us 2 free. The sales figures, I was reading about how these sales figures, fastest selling PlayStation game of all time, these numbers have essentially been cooked because they're counting shipped units. They're not counting strictly sold units. It's shipped units. And apparently there are fucking store after store after store worldwide that have backlogs of these copies. And I don't know. I think that the fan base is divided. Again, like I was saying, beyond anything reasonable. And to your point, Paul, absolutely, I appreciate I appreciate an attempt at doing something different. I definitely do. I just can't help but feel like if this story wasn't The Last of Us, everybody would be talking about how this is one of the greatest games ever made.
100%.
Right?
I agree with you there.
It's that's no question. I would be too. I really do. I just think that, man, some of these story beats, I don't know, like what makes The Last of Us good? Neil Druckmann specifically, he lost sight of things. He lost sight of things throughout this script. And I'm not saying it's all bad, not by any means, but I think that he lost sight of things throughout some of this script.
Well, it definitely doesn't have, like, it's not sort of, Last of Us finished, there was a happy ending, and there really was. It was happy, everyone felt warm and fuzzy, everything worked out.
Well,
but this one is just got, and I think that's the direction that they decided to take. I'm good with it. I like the grim, the darker tone, the themes of revenge and trauma and hate, and I just found it like really raw, really gritty, and
definitely
did it for me. But am I shocked at some of the things that happened in the game? Did the game go the direction I wanted to? Maybe not, but I'm good with it. I'm good with the direction that took me. I'm good with the journey, the way they told the stories and how they made, how everything sort of came together in the end, mostly, and you could relate not only to Abby but to Ellie as well, and sympathize with both sides at the end. And it was sad. Like, the game finishes and you just feel this overwhelming sense of sadness that here Ellie is, who's lost everything, remains, she's maybe she's gained a little bit of humanity throughout this journey, but she's lost everything at this point. So and her decision making, which we'll get to, is, I find, questionable. I don't know why she felt compelled to go back and finish Abby off, but she did, to go to Santa Barbara. I don't know why she did, but I mean, that was part of the journey, and I don't know. For me, it's unforgettable. I mean, to me, I think it's unfortunate that the community is so divided. I feel like that has less to do with the story and more to do with a couple of the characters in the game, which is unfortunate. But I think that's primarily where the discourse is. I mean, I feel that it has that. That's where I think a lot of the grievances rest, unfortunately.
So I think it's interesting, Trev, that you say that at the end of The Last of Us, it was a happy ending. Everybody walked away. They were all happy. Well, that's kind of the story of this game, is that the end of The Last of Us was not a happy ending for everyone.
That's right.
No.
Because Abby's father, who was a guy who clearly was very conflicted about what he thought he had to do to save humanity, is dead. And her life is broken. So this is, as much as it's wrapped up as Ellie's story, it's kind of Abby's story.
In many ways, it is.
That's the problem with the game. Is that it's Abby's story, but Abby is this like inconsequential character that you brought to you brought to Joel's death. I mean, and again, like that's what I was saying, that there's serious pacing issues in that first act. I think that the game would have been a lot better had you not played as Abby in the opening act. I may have been able to find my sympathy for her had I not done that, but man, you take this random character and you force the player to bring her to Joel. Oh man, makes me sick thinking about it.
So maybe let's move on to
Yeah.
the Abby section of the game.
Please.
Because Rhett, I gotta know, what is it about this character that you think or feel that was mishandled?
Like I was saying, man, she's just completely fucking inconsequential. I know that her father was the guy, like, so what? It didn't matter. There was no way, and again, I expressed a lot of this already, but there was no way that Druckmann was going to build sympathy for this character, and it didn't matter what social political issue he beat the player over the head with. Druckmann was not going to build sympathy out of Abby. It just didn't compute for me. It didn't work. Yeah, I just wanted to get to killing Abby, and all of her fucking friends too. Manny, fucking, who was the boyfriend?
Owen.
Fucking kill that dude. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Now,
So
I will say though, sorry, Seattle, like, playing as Abby during these parts, she had some of the best moments in the entire game, gameplay wise. I mean, we'll get to day 3, but I think that the island was probably the best part of the game.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good sequence. That's sort of the escape from Island.
That was great.
It's Abby and Lev.
Yeah.
Lev, am I pronouncing her name right? His name?
Yep.
Yeah,
So
that was a great sequence. The whole island sequence, the visuals, the explosions, that was pretty cool.
Expertly done. Yeah.
So whether it was successful or not is a different question, but I think that was the goal of this story, was to make you wrestle with that feeling that you wanted Abby dead.
Mm.
That was the goal of the second half of the game, was to make that a question in your mind. Should she be dead? Or was she in the right?
No.
And I mean, methods I
Sorry.
think are questionable, obviously.
Yeah.
Pretty savage.
Sorry, go on, Trevor.
I think they wanted us to sympathize with Abby. I think that was part of the goal of the second half. They wanted us to sort of relate to Abby and sort of see some of the similarities, because Ellie and Abby are actually pretty similar characters in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're both, you know, you think about like sort of what they've had to go through. I mean, Joel kills Abby's dad, Abby kills Joel, Ellie kills Owen and Mel, Abby kills Jesse, Abby kills Tommy. So it's this back and forth where they're killing off these significant characters in one another's lives to the point it reaches, you know, that pretty epic battle that they have inside the theater, which was amazing.
Amazing.
That was a great sequence. And then of course the very end outside outside on the beach and in the water. That was, and then when you see Abby at the end too, she doesn't even look like Abby anymore because she had been hanging on this post for God knows how long. So
Oof, yeah.
So I think they wanted us to sympathize with her. But I'm with you, Rhett. I didn't quite sympathize. I was never able to sympathize with Abby as much as I was with Ellie, but I have more of a history with Ellie than I do Abby.
That's what I'm saying, is how were you ever going to take this random character? I keep saying it, but how were you ever going to take this random and at the time inconsequential character and put her up against this mountain of history with Ellie and expect to actually be able to build sympathy? I know you were saying that they wanted to build sympathy and everything. Exactly. That's my point, is that they were unable to do it, at least in my opinion. I was never able to get there with this character. And it didn't matter what Druckmann tried to beat the player over the head with. I wasn't having any of it. I was just waiting for my chance to get to fucking choke Abby out, stab her, whatever, you know, however Ellie was going to do it, you know? I'm sure she had some plan.
I think part of what they tried to create was they wanted, when she was helping Liev and Yara and helping them escape and defending them and rescuing them, I think that was part of what they wanted to do when it came to, just liking the character. But I never found I really cared about those two characters,
Never.
even though was that an absolutely gruesome, like when they hammered her arm and then
Oh yeah, no, vicious,
God.
vicious. And we've been saying it the whole time. This is a gruesome, vicious game, and it really takes no prisoners in that regard. So yeah, like man, that was a brutal scene.
was it ever?
Yeah.
So, Rhett, when you say whatever Druckmann tried to beat us over the head with, what exactly do you mean? I'm
Okay,
curious.
so and I'm not trying to step on any toes here, but I just think that the character of Lev was created to artificially create sympathy. I think that there are real issues here and real societal problems that people deal with every day, and I think that Druckmann drummed up this character to artificially inseminate the game with sympathy for Abby, and I just wasn't having any of it. It didn't matter to me. These characters felt even more inconsequential than Abby did. Abby, day 2, I think it was, when you go back to get them, man, I'm like, end this now, there were so many sequences where I'm like, I don't care about these people. I don't care about what's going on. They mean nothing to the world of The Last of Us. And I shouldn't say that about Abby, because again, she has the connection with her dad and Joel and everything, so it's not like Abby means nothing, but so much of what Abby is involved in means nothing to The Last of Us. And yeah, I couldn't get past that.
Yeah, I mean, you sympathize with the kid. I mean, Lev just he's banished from his community. I mean, he's forced to kill his mom, which was a bit of a. I didn't see that coming, but I mean, I guess he kills his mom, watches his sister die. I mean, it's pretty brutal what Lev had to go through, and Abby has taken him under her wing, which is great and all. But yeah, I had a tough time with that character as well, Rhett. Like I just did.
Yeah.
Something felt missing, and I can't put my thumb on it.
It did. Exactly. Like it felt like I was being told to sympathize with this character, and I wasn't being asked to. I wasn't, being tasked with diving into this character's history and everything, and discovering this really fleshed out, hammered out character that means something to the overarching narrative. It just wasn't like that. It just felt like this side story that was tacked on to, again, I said it a few times, but to just artificially create sympathy.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they handled Lev was a transgender character, and I think they I didn't care. You know what I mean? As I'm playing, I didn't really care that this character was transgender.
No.
To me, it was almost irrelevant, but it was also a byproduct of, of her mother of his mother turning on him, of the community turning on him. So, you had compassion for him that way, but the fact that he's transgender, I could give a shit.
Right. It just didn't mean anything to what was going on.
No.
And
it was so inconsequential to the flow of the story that I fully missed that context the first time through. I didn't realize that he was a transgender character. Obviously there was something that had happened that had made him exiled. But yeah, I think you guys are right. That's the Lev and Yara are definitely the thinnest part of the story, and they end up being more plot devices than characters.
Absolutely.
Which is a problem. It's a problem.
I think that if they wanted to make a transgender character, I think Abby should have been transgender, and it never should have been an issue. It never should have been, even brought up. He should have just been transgender, I kind of thought that that's where they were going with Lev. And,
so did I.
Right? That Lev would be able to confide in Abby. There would be that scene where Lev would be able to confide in Abby, and Abby would confide in Lev. But then I guess you get Abby and Owen absolutely going to town on each other, so that really puts that theory to rest.
But hey, there'll likely be a part 3, so that's definitely something they can continue, and I suspect they probably will continue if they have if and when.
Yeah,
I choose to believe we will get another game.
it would be tough to imagine not seeing Last of Us 3, especially with the way it ended. Like, they could theoretically create a third game. I don't know.
Oh, absolutely could. Absolutely.
So, one thing I want to touch on is the way the game sort of weaponizes your own perceptions against you, or tries to do that. Questionable how effective it is all of the time. Like, there were a few times through Ellie's section where it would specifically call out something, and it would kind of twinge with me as, this is a strange thing to call out, like when she shoots the dog in the hospital. You know, and she's like, "Oh, you stupid dog," and then throughout Abby's playthrough, the dog is there a lot, and you kind of like the dog, you know, so you feel a little bit bad about killing the dog, and it does that various times throughout the playthrough, both with the dog and with other characters. Like, it tries to do that with Owen, it tries to do that with Mel as well. And I think some of those things are the weaker parts of the narrative because it's trying a little bit too hard. I think maybe it would have been more effective at building some rapport with Abby and with the wolves more generally if it had taken the higher road and gone, shown Abby doing something for the community rather than going out of her way to go back and, backtrack through a whole bunch of Seattle to go find Lev and Yara. I didn't like that section either.
Or backtrack through a bunch of shit to go fuck Owen, who has impregnated Mel. Like, let's not forget about the scene the last time Mel and Abby see each other. Mel's like, "Fuck you, Abby. You're a fucking piece of shit. Get out of my fucking face." Like, that is Abby. That is the fucking character. Mel had it right. And
that was well deserved.
It was, absolutely. She had fucked Owen. Mel's pregnant. What is happening? Like, Abby was a piece of shit, man.
Well, I think they were going for the kind of shit happens angle, and nobody's perfect.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Let's move on to Seattle Day 3. We're approaching the final confrontation with Ellie, where, I mean, I thought it was brilliant that you have to play that section as Abby.
Man.
You specifically are playing this character that you have come to know over the past few hours, and you have presumably some connection to them. And Rhett, I know you have no connection to it, and you're probably trying to, like, electrocute her and shit during the fight.
Oh, dude, I threw her off so many fucking, like, ledges and shit throughout the game. Sorry, go on.
But I think in the case that everything has gone well up to this point, and you do have some level of sympathy for Abby, now you're faced with this situation where you have to take this character that you've come to know recently and put her up against a character that you dearly love from years and years and years of gaming history. And I thought, like, one, the gameplay was really good in that fight. I really enjoyed that battle. But two, I thought it was a good story beat.
Easily the most surreal moment in the entire series. Like, you illustrated it really well, Paul. Playing as this character that I personally, loathed, and going up against Ellie, whom I was desperate to get back in the shoes of and desperate to, complete her journey. Going up against her in this, like, vicious hand-to-hand / weaponized fight, man, brilliantly done. And like I said, the most surreal moment of the entire game. Every time, like, I attacked Ellie, I didn't want to do it, but, oh man, it was just so well done.
Yeah, a real but thou must situation.
Yeah.
And I thought that was going to be the end. I thought, okay, this must be the end of the game. Like, this is the final epic battle. And it turned out to be an epic battle. But I honestly thought that when we went to the cutscene to the farm, that would be like sort of the closing credits scene. Okay, we're done here. Like, this is it. So I was shocked we got probably another couple hours after that epic battle in the theater.
Yeah.
Where up to this point, Abby had killed everything in her way. So part of me was a little bit confused that, okay, she has an opportunity to kind of end it here, and she doesn't. And just says something to the effect of like, hey, I never want to see you again. Like, hey, I'm gonna let this person live, but I never want to, I'm gonna let Dina live, but I never want to see you again. So, part of me was confused at that moment after everything that Abby had gone through. All of a sudden, had sympathy for Dina, who was pregnant. But Mel was pregnant, and Ellie shot her. So, yeah.
I think that's where the Lev and Yara stuff is supposed to come into your mind as, Abby's thinking back to these people that have lost in another way and not wanting to perpetuate that farther.
Right.
Speaking of pregnant Dina, I had a tough time finding sympathy for her because what a selfish decision it was to not tell Ellie about the pregnancy and come with her to Seattle and eventually get Jesse killed. Just to go back a little bit, right? Like, I had a tough time finding sympathy for her in those moments too, but yeah.
Well, and I didn't feel like the relationship between Dina and Jesse was over. Like, there was a point when Jesse arrived at the theater where Dina and Jesse had a bit of a connection there. And so part of me, like, at that time, I remember thinking, this doesn't look over here between the two of them. Yeah. Yet there's this whole relationship with Ellie and Dina. So I thought that was really fascinating and interesting. And also sort of, when we talk about Abby being like the other woman, in some ways, Ellie, for a moment there, felt like, maybe Dina really prefers to be with Jesse. But it was interesting. It was well done in that Last of Us 2 did a great job with all these relationships and the complexities of them and the decisions and the sloppy human mistakes that people make. It did a really nice job capturing that because, there was that moment where I felt, maybe Dina isn't quite committed to Ellie. So,
yeah.
Interesting.
I think that's a criticism I have of a lot of video games is that the writing always tries to put too fine a bow on everything. Everything always ties up perfectly. There are no loose ends, and any mistakes that people have made have either been catastrophic and therefore fatal, or they're completely resolved by the end of the tale. And there's a lot of loose ends here.
That kind of ties into what I wanted to say about these flashbacks that you play through as Abby. Now, in the first game, and correct me if I'm wrong, but did the first game not make it very clear that the doctors had actually tried, like there had been, I don't know, other patients like Ellie, or the doctors had tried something like this before and it never worked? I thought that there were like audio logs or some sort of, like manuscripts that you could pick up that alluded to the doctors actually trying this before.
I don't remember that.
Right? I could have sworn that was a thing, but so I just was going to say that, like, to put it, just to, like, tie everything up in a neat bow and do what you can with the story when it might not make sense. I swear that the flashbacks that you were playing as Abby made it seem like if Ellie had gone through with the operation, 100% there would have been a cure. But I could have sworn in the first game that it was kind of alluded to the fact that it may not have actually worked. But again, I could be wrong about that.
Which is kind of goofy in a way for us to believe that, Ellie is the only one in this entire world that has got that'll be part of this cure.
Yeah.
Because I get what Joel did. I mean, I understand. Like, as a dad myself, I get it. You don't want to sacrifice your daughter, and in Joel's case, surrogate daughter, to become a lab rat. And
I mean,
to you know what I mean? Like, I get it. I get it.
Man, his daughter was shot dead in his arms, as if he could ever go through with losing another daughter, you know?
Right. Right. Another great point.
Yeah.
I kind of think that regardless of whether or not the cure was a sure thing, if Ellie underwent the operation, it's played as though it would have been 100% guaranteed, because we're playing the game from, and we're experiencing the game from Ellie's perspective. And from Ellie's perspective, after she finds out the truth from Joel, that would have been her way to matter. That would have been her way to contribute to the world and make a meaningful change. And as it is, he saved her life, but also ruined her life, because now she's in this monotony of suffering that, you know, is being experienced by everyone who's alive in the world.
That was the real heartbreaking thing about the end of the first game, is that Joel, as broken as he was, he made the decision to rob Ellie of her purpose. And it's something that he had to live with from that point on, and eventually Ellie had to live with once Joel divulged, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a selfish decision for
man,
Joel.
It's selfish, but
sure.
man, it's like Trevor was saying, like, I'm not a father, but I feel like I can sympathize with any father that would agree. Like, I would have done the same thing as Joel did, you know?
Oh,
Man,
absolutely.
it's
It's
that's
the
gotta
human
be
thing to
such
do.
Yeah, yeah. And let's not act. Let's not act like anybody asked Ellie either. You know, nobody asked Ellie. I know that when she was a little bit older, she was like, "Oh, you fucking took my purpose away and everything." But man, at 14, come on, would that girl really have wanted to die if they said like, "Okay, Ellie, we got to put you under now"? I mean, nobody asked her, and I'm not saying she would have not made the unselfish sacrifice, but nobody asked her, man. She was 14.
Yeah, like, well, they can just go let's look for someone else that might have a cure. Let's just go on another journey, and maybe somebody else will have a cure. We'll sacrifice someone else.
Yeah. So we've said that the series is very based in realism. I would not have a tough time believing that there's another person somewhere that has the cure blood in them. If Ellie's got it, you know, there's got to be someone else.
Someone else must.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the brilliant things of this kind of storytelling. You know, the boots on the ground, nobody knows anything kind of storytelling, is that you don't know, and it kind of doesn't matter, because the story isn't about saving the universe. It's about being in this character's shoes and doing what makes sense, and them doing what they believe is right, and sometimes them doing what they believe is right even when it's the ultimate wrong, which is kind of where we end up when we end up in Santa Barbara after the farm sequence.
Yeah. Santa Barbara's cool. It's so nice to, after going through Seattle and spending so much time in, you know, the rainy, overcast levels that Seattle was made up of. It was really nice to go to Santa Barbara and get some sunshine, right? You start off on the beach and you're going through like houses and shit. Man, it was pretty cool. Really like refreshing change of pace for the game.
Yeah, and I enjoyed some of those combat sequences where you're taking down, what were they, slave keepers or whatever the hell they were.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the name of that gang was, for lack of a better word. But yeah, some of those sequences where you're you know, behind a bus and in their sort of encampment, taking them down. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. And those like zombies chained up, which was wild, and it was fun releasing those zombies as they cause chaos. And of course, you do your thing, advancing through the level. So I thought that was all well done, and I enjoyed that sort of little journey we took there to get to the beach, to get to Abby. Who I mentioned earlier was strung up to a post and skinny and didn't even look like her usual, you know, Hulk Hogan-like figure that she was.
That whole Santa Barbara sequence, I really applaud them for putting in something that was that big a change of pace and basically the epilogue of the story. But throughout that whole journey from Santa Barbara down to the beach, I just felt superhuman. Like I had mastered the mechanics of the game and
Right.
was just this absolute beast. Ellie was on a tear, and she was not going to be stopped by anything. It was every tool in the bag was being used just
Yeah,
on and
yeah,
off. All the traps, all the different weapons, and just
100%.
feeling like a true badass.
Yeah, it's where you felt like James Bond, where you'd hit the arrow shots and then you'd switch over to the new SMG that you get and lay a couple shots in and then switch over to a fucking Molotov and toss that. Yeah, like it really did come together at the end here. I was gonna say the Scars. Is that the name of the final gang? Scars.
No, the scars were like
The other ones.
the whistling people.
Oh, right. Whatever this final gang was, they felt like something that was like pulled right off of the pages of a Walking Dead comic. They're just like,
Yeah,
they were
man.
just like a fun, like violent gang like that. That it didn't feel like a major story arc, but it just felt like something that these characters could get into and kind of come together over the course of dealing with, if that makes sense. This sort of like common enemy, bringing these two characters together. I felt that was done really well.
Yeah, the whole Santa Barbara chapter, it really felt. You know what it felt like? It felt like I was watching overtime. Like that it and who doesn't love overtime? It doesn't mean in any game, any football game, any hockey game, you get to overtime and it's exciting. And I found that's what Santa Barbara felt like for me. It felt like overtime, and it was tense, and you're really close to the end, like like it's wrapping up. So yeah, I thought it was great. A great change of pace leading up to that final confrontation with Abby, where bites her fingers off. Again, HBO gore.
God,
they do not hold back. Let's just bite off those fucking fingers so she can never play guitar again.
Exactly.
Not like Ellie has lost everything. Now she's lost the ability to play the fucking guitar.
In the same way that Jaime Lannister lost his hand, the greatest fucking swordsman in the world.
Right. Good point.
Ellie loses her fucking fingers and won't be playing Nine Inch Nails. Was it Nine Inch Nails? She won't be playing any of that shit, maybe ever again.
Nope.
She's gonna have to start playing left-handed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's her best hope.
Jesus.
Jimi Hendrix style.
She.
But man,
Yeah.
I thought the whole farm sequence did a great job of making me question whether when Ellie finally did track down Abby, was she going to be able to do it? Because she hesitated so hard when Tommy came there, because she was so into what was happening with Dana, or Dina, and the baby, and everything that she'd built on the farm. I didn't know if she would be able to go through with it, and that.
But this is just another stupid story beat, though. Like, so Tommy comes down and he fucking causes this big fucking thing, and
Guilt trip.
Dina's mad at Ellie, and she still goes. She goes to get Abby. Like, why would she not go through with things at the end? She throws away everything. I mean, there are certain interpretations of the ending. But at this point, Ellie is throwing away everything, and there's nothing for Ellie to come back to when she makes this decision, and she goes, and she's not gonna fucking make the final decision, or maybe I should say, Druckmann doesn't give us the choice in the matter. If we're supposed to feel empty and broken and alone at the end of the game, and like we made and like our decisions mattered one way or another, let me make my decision. Let me kill Abby. Let me fucking go through with what this entire game was about, or at least 3/4 of the game. Let me make that decision for myself, and then let me feel shitty afterwards. Let me be the bad guy if I want to be.
But I was okay. I was okay with that. I mean, she's ending the cycle of revenge, ending the cycle of violence. I mean, kind of like we talked about earlier, there had been all these killings. All the meaningful people in their lives had been killed, if not at the hands of Abby, the hands of others, and vice versa with Ellie as well. So I think I think to me it made sense that at that very moment, at the very end, when she had the flashback of Joel, when she's about to kill her, like choke her underneath the water, she just came to the realization like that the cycle has to stop, at least until Last of Us Part 3. But it's got to stop for the purpose, for the purpose of this, of what we're going through. Stop that cycle of revenge that both of them had been going through leading up to the very end. Both of them had just been on this war path the entire game. And so I see what you're saying. Like, perhaps we should have had the choice. Or why didn't she end it? Like, we had gone this far. Why didn't she just finish her off? But
well, I think we more so should have gotten the choice. That's really what it is. I think that, like, this feeling that Neil Druckmann wants you to feel at the end of this game, I think that he actually could have gotten the majority of players to feel it if he gave the player the choice. I was going to say that I was mentioning that Joel in the first game robbed Ellie of her purpose. Druckmann robs the player of their purpose at the end of this game.
Maybe.
But maybe that's what he was going for. Maybe Druckmann is now Joel, and he's robbing the player of the purpose in the same way that Joel robbed Ellie of hers in the first game.
That's a good... yeah. You could be onto something, really.
Right. Or maybe I'm thinking way too deep into it, and Druckmann is not that smart, and Druckmann just kind of coasted through this. So I'm kind of leaning towards that.
I don't know that I'd say coasted. This is a pretty
that's
heavily
harsh.
developed narrative, whether you like it or not. Regardless of how you feel about the outcome, everything was in service to those themes that Trevor mentioned of revenge and loss and dealing with those things. And I think one of the main takeaways that I had from this game is that at the end of it, Ellie does not feel fulfilled in any way. She's gone on this journey of trying to avenge Joel, and in one way has succeeded because she found the person that did it and prevailed in a battle, but also by doing that lost everything else that she'd built. And I don't know, I think it's okay that is just what it is.
Yeah,
I don't think there needs to be a greater purpose.
I think Ellie, she decided that she had to give up on her quest for revenge, which is something Abby essentially did at the theater. I mean, she could have offed everyone there, and she could have killed Dina, but she's just she decided then, I'm stopping this cycle of revenge. I don't ever want to see you again. Have a nice life. And I think that at that point, then we circle back to Ellie, and it's sort of a similar ending. She could have finished off Abby, but she didn't. And I think it was all about stopping that cycle, that quest for revenge, and finding, peace. That, maybe killing the person that killed Joel won't make her happier. It won't help her cope with what she had gone through with the trauma. It won't help her in any way by killing Abby. And I think she came to terms with that. I can finish her off here, but you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And so I thought that was all for me, I was like, wow, that's impactful.
I think you're right, Trev. And the part where right after that, where she ends up back at the farm and, the whole thing is stripped bare except for her kind of art room when, the shrine to her past life as an artist and her time with Joel is still intact. And we end the game with her literally closing the door on that chapter of her life, which is what she just did with Abby. She let it go, and she's going to move on. She's going to move forward instead of looking back and being caught in that cycle.
Yeah, but you're beating a dead horse at that point. Let me kill Abby, and then let me leave Joel behind by leaving the room and trying to play guitar with my nubs. As far as I'm concerned, this girl got left with nothing but fucking nubs at the end of this game. What the fuck? Fucking Fuck, she's gonna have to fucking Paul McCartney it from now on.
She's like, God damn it, there must be a drummer out. Man, I
Yeah.
can bang on a drum or something. This is bullshit.
100%. 100%.
Okay, did that farm not, like, I wanted to live in that farm.
Yeah.
It was so picturesque. It was so perfect. Like, that whole farm and the grass, the surrounding areas was so stunning. Like, way to end on a really high note graphically. Like, I thought visually, the end, that whole farm, and just the way that played out at the end looked fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. You know, killing Abby or not, this was exactly the way to end the game. Back in the house, and it's really kind of sad because, you know, it's empty and quiet, and like you go into the bedroom and the sheets are all folded up, and but then of course, like Paul was saying, you've got the Joel room, Ellie's shrine to her relationship with Joel, and leaving that behind. Yeah, that is exactly how the game should have ended.
I wonder if they ever thought about having that choice be a thing at the end of the game.
Play the nubs, play guitar.
Well, play the nubs, obviously, but whether or not to kill Abby.
Oh, okay.
They had to have wrestled with that. I'm sure they did.
So originally the ending was Ellie killing Abby, and Druckmann, you know, he just didn't have the set to go through with it. I'm gonna say it.
How do we know that? How do we know
This is
that?
confirmed. Oh, Druckmann and what's her name? The like lead script, the lead script writer or whoever it was with
Hallie
Druckmann.
Gross.
Yeah. They came out and said originally the plan was for Ellie to kill Abby, and then after several, you know, changes to the script, I guess they figured they'd go with the other ending.
Interesting.
Yeah. Would love to see a director's cut with the real ending. Yeah.
You mean the real ending where Abby just kills Ellie as well as Joel?
She just goes on a yeah. She just kills everybody, Tommy too, at the start of the game. Credits roll.
Yeah, everybody's dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I'd like to say as well, actually, about Abby and her part of the game. So you have fucking legendary actor Jeffrey Wright playing Isaac, and that dude got 2 scenes, and then he gets shot dead. It's the same thing with Troy Baker as well. Like, your best actors in this game were given next to nothing, and the stuff that they were given, man, they absolutely knocked out of the park. It's just bizarre to me. It's very bizarre to me that they made the decision to kill off their best actors without giving them really much to chew on. I shouldn't say that, because they had good scenes. Like, the stuff that they did was very well done. Damn, I just would have liked to see more, especially from Jeffrey Wright.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Still though, they pack so. I mean, this thing was 25 hours long.
True,
or
yeah.
whatever it took me to get through. I mean, you can only pack so much into this bad boy. I mean, I think the thing was 75 gigs. It was the largest. I think the largest exclusive PS4 exclusive to date.
So
Then
then
I think I remember reading that somewhere.
but then it all goes back to this bullshit with Lev and the sister. Like, knock all
Filler.
knock all
Filler.
of knock all of that stupid shit out of the game and give me like actual storyline with Jeffrey Wright, and like put me back at the stadium. That was another thing. One of the coolest parts of the game is when you are controlling Abby and you get to see the stadium that they've set
that
up.
was wild.
Man, that's fucking cool. I would have
It was spot on.
Right?
I've been to that stadium many times. It was spot on. Like, everything from like where the 12th flag is usually to the end zone bleachers. Yeah, it was impressive. It was kind of cool walking around. I mean, I even said to my wife, I'm like, "Hey, honey, there's our seats right up there."
Yeah, like that shit was really cool, and I would have loved to explore the stadium more, get into a little bit more of Isaac's role in the story and his whole like purpose in what's going on. But no, it's like you've got this fucking legendary actor and you give him 2 or 3 scenes and then kill him. I thought that was.
But you're right.
Yeah.
As long as it was, they still could have told so many other stories. And Isaac's, yeah, I didn't realize that such an accomplished actor was playing Isaac. But yeah, Isaac's in the game for a minute. And you hate
you
him.
hate him,
You
right?
hate him
Like,
the whole
man,
time.
he's fucking evil, and you want to see
Yeah,
more
like-
of him. You want to see him get his, but not as fast as he does. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that could be part 3.
Yeah.
That could be part 3, is the formation of the wolves from the remnants of the fireflies, and some of that backstory. Even going as far back as playing as Abby's surgeon father, whatever his name is.
I would be a lot more interested in playing that story than playing the continuation of 2. I don't care about what Abby and Lev go and do now, but yeah, Paul, that's a really cool idea. Maybe playing as the Doctor a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's no chance that we see a continuation past this point.
No,
we don't see any more of Ellie's story or Abby's story.
No,
you don't think? I think you could possibly see Ellie's story. I mean, Dina's not dead. Would not a part of her want to go find Dina, or does Dina give Ellie another chance? Like, part of me would like to see it branch out into that direction. And where does Abby go from here? Does she just live happily ever after? Like, what? I kind of like to see an extension to 2, but I think you're right, Paul. I think we don't see it.
I think that the ending of was 2 alluded to Ellie actually having a much happier ending than you would think. There are a couple things that kind of indicate that they're all back at Jackson. There's a letter, I believe, from Jesse's parents that you find in this final act, and it mentions, how they're all back in Jackson, and how she's so sorry.
Yeah.
She's so sorry about Jesse's death and everything. And then another really big clue that I think gives it away is when Ellie leaves to go to Santa Barbara, there's this moment with this bracelet that she has, and she like gives the bracelet back or something like that. There's this moment with this bracelet, and she leaves without it. And then when she comes back to the farm at the end of the game, she's wearing Dina's bracelet. So I think that's what was another thing I think that they're all back at Jackson, as far as what they showed at that ending.
Yeah.
So,
Good observations.
Who knows?
Good observations.
yeah.
I did notice the bracelet the first time through, but part of me was also thinking Ellie could have been to Jackson, and it could have been overrun by that point.
Right.
Everybody could be dead still.
Exactly. Well, what's unquestionable is she did not go straight from Santa Barbara to the farm, because she's healed. She doesn't have any of her weapons or anything.
Yeah.
I think that they were trying to show that some time had passed, and obviously time would pass, but I think that they were trying to show that like Ellie had been other places before going to the farm.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I think her hair was a bit different too.
Yeah, right. Stuff like that.
Well, anyways, that was The Last of Us Part 2, guys.
I mean, I'll argue this till the day I die. Last of Us Part 2, there is it's a very short list of games that play better than The Last of Us 2. There's no question that it's a contender for Game of the Year, maybe Game of the Generation. As a sequel to The Last of Us, disappointing. Gameplay wise, again, there's a few things that play better, but as a sequel to The Last of Us, I think it could have been done better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, technical masterclass. Like nothing.
Technical
is
masterclass,
better from a visual perspective, music,
absolutely.
acting.
Oh,
all
that,
writing,
it doesn't get
even
better.
If you don't like where it goes.
Yeah. No, you're right. Like it's very well done. Like even the parts that I don't like, of course, they're given the Hollywood treatment. But yeah, like I was saying at the start of this, if this wasn't a sequel to The Last of Us, I think pretty much everybody would be calling this a near perfect game.
Yeah.
And,
I totally agree with that.
I'd be in that boat too.
And I think I would argue, even if, like, for me as well, this is not the sequel I would have expected or would have wanted from this series. But after playing it, really digesting it, and going back and playing through it again, I think it's the sequel that we needed for this game. I don't think a direct sequel that was more of the same, or grappled with the exact same issues, I don't think it would have been effective. I think Rhett is right that if it was a different IP and it was kind of more of the same, that probably would have been super successful, but I don't think a direct sequel to The Last of Us would have been what we needed.
And I agree with you that I don't think they should have rehashed the same issues, but they should have come up with issues that mattered. That's where I'm coming from with that.
It's tough because I think a lot of franchises wrestle with that. Like, do we make more of the same, or do we take a drastic departure? So I give Naughty Dog tons of kudos for taking what I would consider a significant departure from the original. In some, I mean, the combat, the stealth, a lot of the the weapons, a lot of that's the same. Jaw-dropping visuals, post-apocalyptic environment, a lot of that is the same. But just the overall tone and the characters and just sort of the dark feeling to the entire thing was different. So I mean, I give them props. They didn't give us more of the same. What will we get? Will it be another 7 years from now? What will we get from another installment in the franchise? I think we'll probably see the same thing. It'll be a drastic departure. It won't be what we expect, and it might piss off a lot of fans, but I don't know. At the end of the day, I think if people play this from beginning to end, for the most part, I think people will feel like they got their money's worth. I feel like I got my money's worth.
Yeah.
That I didn't necessarily feel robbed here. I thought it was just a terrific experience. Yeah, I can get nitpicky about certain things, but overall, I quite enjoyed it.
No, I didn't feel like I got robbed either. If I were to play through the game and like skip every cutscene in Abby's part, perfect. I'd play through that as many times as I could. Yeah, it's a great game to play.
Yeah, I mean, it grapples with themes that we don't see grappled with in games, and they went way out on a limb, and probably were only able to do that because of the pedigree of the studio and how much success they've had in the past. Like, there's no way in hell you would let like the Coalition go that far out of their way with a Gears of War game. There's just no way that would happen.
No.
But that it turned out as well as it did, and I think at least some people think that it's the sequel that we needed for this franchise, myself included. You know what? I loved it. Loved every minute of it.
Yikes.
Yeah, I'm with you, Paul. I really did enjoy it. I did like the journey that we went on. I did enjoy the story. Yes, it was unsettling at the end. I did feel unsettled. I felt unsatisfied in some ways. But, the more time I reflect on the story, the more time I think about it, I think that's what we needed. That's what we needed. And I think that's kind of what Neil and company was the story they were trying to tell. So it was good. I want to play some more, but it might be a while.
Thank God Sony thank God Sony has Ghost of Tsushima out right now, because they have never been so embarrassed on their own turf, man.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I'm sure sales, I haven't looked at sales, but I'm sure sales are off the charts. Aren't they?
It's like I said, yeah, they claim that it's the fastest selling game, but there's a lot of controversy with that because they're including shipped units and not sold units.
That's
like,
not unique to this game, though.
The Japanese numbers are crazy low. Like they literally can't give this game away on Amazon. Like I said,
have they released digital? The digital sales. That
True.
Companies are always dodgy with digital sales.
But this particular situation has been like, I don't know, I think it's been kind of unique. They've been uniquely quiet, it's suspiciously quiet about like what these actual numbers are. I think that the game is much less of a critical success than people think. And I think
maybe
I think that I don't know if I would lean toward calling it a commercial failure. It's certainly not a failure, but I don't think it's as much of a critical success as people think it is. Like I said, man, Tsushima, thank God they've got Tsushima right now, because I think Sony fans are really into it and they've forgotten about Last of Us. Yeah.
Ghost of Tsushima is pretty cool.
I haven't played it yet. I do want to play it, but part of me was hesitant because I thought it would be another, Souls-like punishing game where you need to have pinpoint fucking accuracy for every little control and move and mechanic, which drives me fucking mental. I'm too old. I'm too slow. my reflexes suck. I just don't have the patience
No,
for Souls-like games anymore. It's got to be fucking easier.
Tsushima's good for that. It's not as ruthless. It's not as unforgiving on the timing.
Then I'm in.
Yeah,
like
balance.
you can basically just hold the block button and you'll block pretty much every attack. There are ones that you need to dodge, but yeah, it's not easy, but definitely it's not any like Souls like, you know.
Yeah, I've reached an age where I almost need those accessibility features that Last of Us 2 had.
And
Like it's like they're thinking of me.
Eyesight's going, you know.
Everything. Like I'm actually wearing glasses as I'm podcasting here. It's gotten to that point. I gotta wear my reading glasses just so I can see the screen.
It's funny.
And I'm probably talking too loud like an old man.
No. It's funny you mentioned that though, because just today they patched in a new difficulty and new accessibility options into Ghost of Tsushima. So it might be the perfect time for you to hop on board.
Yeah, well, yeah. I just might do that. Just might do that.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. This has been our Last of Us 2 Spoilercast? I don't know. The thing where we talk about The Last of Us Part 2. Smash that like and subscribe button.
We definitely spoiled it.
You can do that. If you want to hear some more from us, we would love that. And, we'll see you next time.
Peace out.
See ya.